I think the route clearance is one of the most important missions in Iraq. And I'm not saying that just because that's what I took part in, but the mission that we did wasn't an offensive force. We weren't there to kick in the doors and to find these terrorist cells. What we were there to do is to protect and save the lives of the troops that are trying to convoy up and down the road to get to their area of operation.
Oh, the best way I could explain route clearance would be, in military terms, it would be assured mobility. Everybody has to stay mobile and safe. You go down a road and there's no bombs there, nobody's going to get hurt. But if you go down a road and bombs there, there's a good possibility someone could get killed or injured.
Your mindset every day was to be on mission. If you were ever stressed about things at home or not in the right mindset, you were not doing the mission any good. We operated a lot, like I said, a lot of the main supply route, which pretty much went from southern Iraq to northern Iraq. So you went from a desolate desert on this 4-lane highway to a very busy city environment, very urban.
There's so many situations that, every time you go outside of the wire, you're stressed. You're at that edge of, you're almost at the edge of insanity every day because, you never know when that next 5 foot, that next 10 foot is going to be your last. I can remember days where 2 or 3 IEDs would go off, on particular vehicles, on Huskies, on, Buffaloes, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. And then other times, you found it and it blew up. I mean, it happens.
You may find yourself going through the center of a marketplace. So the terrain around you and the people around you varied greatly, and it was always something to take into consideration to keep your alertness up in the different situations and different areas you were in. You always had to take into consideration that these IEDs are potentially being watched. There's always somebody watching it because they want to know if it's working, if that's a good spot for it, if it's, if what they did works so that they can do it the next time. So your security was always the number 1 priority.
Without route clearance, there's so many things that could happen. Children playing ball or whatever, run out on the road to get their ball. There's a bomb there. What? It could be, victim operated, where they step on it or they pass through a laser beam or whatever, and then they're dead. The civilians, they don't know where the bombs are, and they didn't put them there. The insurgents have put them there. So we're going down a route. By removing those IEDs, we're saving the civilians, and we're saving the military, which, we keep our supplies running, we keep everything that we need on the route.
Anytime you detonated an IED, it was an immediate feeling of relief, one for yourself, but it was a huge feeling of accomplishment because you know that you've just made that area safer for anybody that's going to be traveling that roadway later.
I have been in a Husky when an IED exploded. If I could pick one vehicle in the world to get blown up in, it would be the Husky. The way I felt when it exploded, there's really no explanation on the feeling. It's, almost like jumping out of an airplane and just stopping. Like you were on a bungee jumping from an airplane at, 1,000 miles an hour or something. And then put a piece of steel next to your head and hit it with a sledgehammer. And that's kind of what the sound and the feeling, it hurts you deep in your bones.
I saw several Meerkats and Huskies that had been hit by RPGs or by IEDs, and the design works. The drivers all walked away, minimal injuries, scrapes and bruises, because you are going to get rattled, but the armor and the design of the vehicle works to protect the driver and operator.
The Husky itself, it's an extremely tough vehicle. It'll absorb quite the blast, and it seemed like the pressure was dispersed away from me. Instead of being directly on the vehicle, the V-shaped hull and the openness on the front module, it dispersed all the blast from being directly at me to being away from the vehicle.
Had a detonation gone off on the Husky and basically ripped the modules off themselves, we could have the Husky definitely have it back up and operational in an hour or less. You could switch the modules out very quickly.
Generally, it's pretty quick. You blow a module off, you're at like 12, 18 bolts, and you've got a new one on.
I definitely think that the route clearance was good for the civilians, the Iraqi civilians and the American, or other countries that were there working as civilians.
Route clearance missions, assured the safety of the civilians and the military as well. It made it a safe place, at least for a temporary amount of time.
A lot of people don't understand what we did over there and how we did it. They never understood the risks or the rewards of what we did and the lives that are saved by the Husky being in Iraq and in Afghanistan doing route clearance missions.